But he says, "Hey, weeb nuts. I haven't submitted a question in a while. I have my reasons. You can probably guess why. Also, my name is pronounced Lale. You can punch it into Google Translate if you want the pronunciation it uses spot on. That's a fucking lie. I just did it. I have evidence. A fucking lie. I've continually listened to older podcast episodes as I've been going about my days, and as of writing this, I'm currently on episode 54. How I've managed to survive over a year of Caitlyn's spontaneous combustion of giggling, Kyle's incessant obsession over reading poorly written erotic fan fiction, the worst kind, I might add, and Shawn and his shitty-ass microphone making him sound like he's continually being banished to and resummoned from the realm of madness by Daddy Cthulhu. I'll never know. Y'all are some fucktards. Honorable mentions go to Sam and the other TP extras of fucking course. For today, I'm going to ask you for some recommendations. I have 6 categories, and you are to give me one must-watch anime in each one. I am submitting this question shortly before the time for you to record because I want to hear the more natural response. I don't think we talked about it before in the show, but we talked about it before. But a lot of the times these notes are made last second, and we have no time to sit there and think about these things. So
yeah, we were actually talking about that right before the podcast.
You can send the question a week before the show comes out, and I will not notice what it is until it's legitimately in the docs and shit like that. So don't worry about it. I want to hear your natural response, i.e., what are your answers when you don't have a lot of time to think about it? Meaning, what is the first thing that your mind jump to? My categories are as follows: action, romance, horror, comedy, shonen, and feels good. Shonen, Boku no Hero is exculpated. Is that a fucking word? Exculpated?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's my favorite anime I've ever watched. And in Feel Good, he says an anime that can explicitly get you into a really good mood, or at least one that has it as its intention. It may not work for everyone. Because I submitted my questions so late, if you can't think of one for one or multiple categories, simply leave it blank. For the same reason, if you end up picking the same one in a category, that's also fine. That would be surprising considering Shawn's repertoire. Most likely won't submit more questions until I'm all cut up with the show. On average, I listen to 1 or 2 episodes a day, so it shouldn't be too long. After that, I'll return to submitted questions weekly or bi-weekly. Again, I have my reasons. Greetings from Lale, me, Leia, Marley, Goliath, Anakin, Whiskey, Nova, and Queen Hera. Well, appreciate that.
That last one sounded like almost Russian. Was it spelled Golyat?
Goliat. Goliath. Oh. Maybe it's Goliath and he just forgot the H.
Or Goliath.
Goliath.
Yeah.
Goliath. Yes. Take the whiskey shot, the dude. Okay. So, anime recommendations for each category. We'll start with action. And we're going to try to keep them separate. So you'll have 2 for each category. I'll let Shawn go first, and I'll make mine something different that I think is also good. But again, we usually watch a lot of our anime together, but we are from practically close to different generations of fans. So he should have stuff that he's seen that might be older than something I might recommend. So we'll start with action. So Shawn,
action.
Without thinking too hard, just something when you think action, this is the first thing you go to recommend people.
Hunter x Hunter.
That's an excellent fucking choice. I'm not gonna lie. Hunter x Hunter would probably be better throw into shonen, because that's also a category.
It's a shonen, but I really don't. I classify it more as a seinen because the concepts in Hunter x Hunter are deep. And it's very violent. I mean, it is a shonen, but it's one of the first ones that started blurring that barrier and being multi-genre.
It's a shonen for people that grew up with shonen, because it's a deconstruction of shonen. So it's for the people that have grown to love that style and that type of writing, and it takes that and just breaks all of your what's the fucking word? Breaks all of your expectations for shonen, or what usually happens.
It completely does.
Excellent.
Hunter x Hunter shows you what releasing superpowered people in a normal world does to that world. And you have people who are equivalents to, Boku no Hero or Naruto or Bleach or what have you. And they've got these abilities, but the mass majority of people on this planet, and I don't even know if it takes place on Earth, to be honest, don't have abilities. They're normal people.
Isn't what's his face the dude that's
no, it definitely doesn't, because the continents are different. Because
don't they mention New York?
Continents.
Don't they mention New York?
No, they call it York New.
Oh,
York
okay. You're.
It's. I think it's a alternate reality, is what I think, because the continents are all different. They don't really get into the political structure. There's a lot that you don't know about the Hunter x Hunter world, which is probably one of the downsides, because you learn about it as Gon learns about it, because you've got this kid that's a complete neutral, right? He's a clean slate. He's a 10-year-old boy who's ridiculously powerful, and he just gets stronger because he's a hunter, and hunters are people that are able to harness this psychic energy to produce varying results. There's different classes of hunters that are able to utilize this energy to do different things. Like I just said that, but he's looking for his dad.
Going for that word count, huh?
He ventures out into this world to find his dad, and that's all it is. He wants to find his dad. His dad left on an adventure a long time ago, and he hasn't seen him for a while, and he wants to find him. And it's bizarre because his mother's just like, all right, well, you're 10 now, so go, here's a sandwich, go find your dad. And off he goes on a fucking boat with strangers, and he finds out how fucked up the world is. And the interesting thing is the way that he views things, because he's a native to this violent world, is violence just doesn't catch him by surprise, but he views every instance of something that happens in front of him very neutral. So whereas as a viewer, we would feel about it one way, and the characters involved might feel another way, like he doesn't feel any way. Like he determines how he feels about something when he comes across it. So there are times when you'd expect him to behave one way and he doesn't, and there's times when you don't expect him to behave a way and he does. It's just very fresh to see somebody who doesn't have any rules about what is evil and what is good go out and write those rules as he learns about the world. So you get this really unique perspective on things, and there are actions characters take in this world that I would consider evil that he doesn't. And he's just like, okay, I understand that. And then he moves on, and it just makes you kind of take things differently. And you also see the power and privilege that comes with being a living weapon of some kind, and how you can just do whatever the fuck you want and get away with it because you've got a hunter's license. And so villains and heroes are side by side in this show, doing for the most part as they please, and the only force that polices them is themselves. Like they have a hunter association that goes out and hunts rogue hunters, and people who are using their abilities and aren't registered as hunters get hunted down. Like there are gangs and shit. So it's just really, it very much is a deconstruction. It really shows you why it doesn't work, because innocent people die by the score constantly. And then this is handled like a shonen. So you don't really, they show you, but they don't get into graphic detail, but there's death all over the place, and it's just handled so casually, and as a viewer, you don't really see that. I mean, you notice immediately that there's something wrong with this world, because, thousands of people die in a fucking battle, and like maybe one person's like, well, that kind of sucked. I'm sad all those people died. Who wants hot dogs? It's clearly illustrated to you that there's something wrong there.
Another good thing about Hunter x Hunter that a lot of shonens don't do always well is that there's a really good power system in place with Nen, and you really understand a lot about Nen the way they teach it to you. So you really have a very good handle on how their power system works, and there never really is an instance of people pulling shit out of their ass. Like a lot of it, these people have to train heavily to get the power that they do get. And
you don't have a fucking Dragon Ball moment where, holy crap, how did he get past 6,000?
Yeah, it's like, I screamed really hard and my hair got longer, so now I'm gonna beat your fucking ass. Like, no, that doesn't happen. If someone's poorly outclassed, they're aware of it, you're aware of it, and they do what they can to get the fuck out of that situation.
Or they die. Yeah.
or they die.
There are a lot of them that know they're dead before the battle starts. I mean, they'll just say it. There's no way I'm getting out of this alive. All I can do is try and buy time. And there's a lot of tragedy in that. There's a lot of character depth. Like my favorite character in the show gets phased out. Like I'd say about midway, and because he's got goals to be a doctor, and he's just like the family dynamic between the three main characters. Like I said, one of which gets phased out early on. He's still part of the unit, though. You still feel his presence. They're just the characters are fantastic. I'm sorry, I know I'm not going in the same vein you were, but I can't. I love this show so much.
It's good as fuck,
and it really does work by really good mechanics. The powers work off of mechanics. They work like they would in a video game, like where a video game works really hard to balance things and make sure that you have to work to get certain things. Like that's one of the things that it really is, Kyle brought up, it really is admirable that the rules are concrete in this world. You don't break the rules. You can't. And there are some hunters that are essentially gods, like the main dude who ends up passing on in his fight with I don't want to say anything more. One of the characters ends up passing away eventually, and he's able to summon a fucking titan with his abilities. He creates a Hindu titan kind of thing. It's fucking amazing. I will say that the movies aren't all that. They're kind of just side stories. You can skip them.
For recommendations, you're awfully spoiling the lot. Please watch this show. This character dies. This character dies. This character's feels
anyway,
out.
it's excellent. It's excellent. It's probably my number one pick for action. There we go. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I really, really love it. The characters are great. I wish they would dip more into the world, but when you see look at what these licensed, what these superpowered people are just able. In one episode, somebody casually kills like I think 8,000. Was it 8,000 people? He has ability to manipulate people, but when he manipulates them, when he takes control, they effectively die. Like when he removes the manipulation, they die. And he controlled like this huge section of the country to go after somebody to prevent them from doing something. And then at the end, like he just stops and they all die. And it's just never blinked at. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody talks about it. And he goes unpunished. It's just that kind of thing. Like it's darker than it appears when the moment you start to think about it. And it's written that way on purpose. And I just can't. That's why I really don't feel like it's a shonen. It's truly just a shonen. I feel like it's much more than that. Hunter x Hunter sticks with you. And even if you watch it just as a shonen, it's still delightful. Like the friendship between the main characters is amazing. The friendship between Gon and his best friend is fantastic.
The animation is really good. Some really good fights.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That fight between what's his name? The guy with the lantern. I can't remember his fucking name. The one who up until that point you just think he's a little bitch, and then he goes up against the pink guy, the butterfly guy. And that Shoot, was his name Shoot?
It's been a while, bro. Like probably like 5 or 6. Seen it.
There is just one fight in there, which is one of my all-time favorite fights.
We recommend watching the 2011 version, the remake. It just looks nicer. And we're not going to say... I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say about the end and stuff, but just watch it.
Shoot.
Just watch it. It's really good.
It's out there, too. It's weird.
Yeah. Well-defined power system, good characters, good writing, good fights, good animation. Really fun. It's like 140 episodes, something like that. So you got a lot to
finish, unfortunately.
That's what I was trying not to spoil, but that's okay.
Well, it's not there's so much a spoiler. It comes to a sort of close.
Yeah, but the manga's on a hiatus.
Continue.
It's
one of those guys. It's like Berserk. It goes on hiatus. It's like every 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's a little cold, goes on hiatus for 6 months. Yep. But yeah. The show's really good. Definitely a good recommendation. For action for me, I think action needs to have good animation, obviously. So if you haven't seen, some more popular recommendations would be like Mob Psycho, One Punch Man, stuff like that. If you have seen stuff like that, I think more neat, like niche titles, I don't know what the word is, but one that I really enjoy is called Yozakura Quartet. They actually had an original show that came out back in like 2007, and then they did a remake of it. I think it's Yozakura Quartet Hana no Uta, and it's about this village of both demons and people living in together, and they have like a group of kids that manage inter-demon person relations, make sure that no one's killing each other or fucking up, and this dude shows up. Animation's excellent. Characters are pretty cool. Interesting story when they get into like how there's like a dude that actually his power is to move people in between these two realms where all demons exist and all humans exist, and he can transfer them freely. He can also transfer objects and shit like that, but it's power passed down to his family.
Why haven't I seen this show?
We watched the first episode. We never went. It was the one where they fought the goldfish in the first episode. Like lightning strike the goldfish, remember?
Fish.
And the girl had a...
remember any anime with a fucking goldfish.
Well, there's this cat dude that comes in and he strikes everything with black lightning and it makes these goldfish big. It's the girl that she can speak stuff into existence. That's her power. So she'll say something and describe it and it will create it. And her tongue like electrifies.
You're really starting to sound like Fairy Tale now.
We've seen it. I promise you. Because I remember watching like the first few episodes. There's a cat girl that she has like a sensory power that she can locate people in the city. The main character is kind of normal besides the fact that he can do the transfer shit. There's a god that kind of hangs out with them, but he just watches. He doesn't really intermingle. There's a nun that follows him around and she's really strong. I don't know how you don't remember this. I'm pretty sure we've watched it. If you see the characters, you'll probably know. Good action. A lot of the action also is like heavily kind of like martial arts based when they do have this elements of hand to hand. There are the powers obviously as well, but the animation is excellent. It also has one or two really good movies that go with it that further the story. Just a really fun, good action show that just has it's more fun. It's not super deep. There are some elements that get kind of interesting when they go into the powers and moving people around and shit and the families and those connections, and you learn more about this dude that's fucking up everyone's plans. But the action's my favorite part. The animation's excellent. Really good animation. And just a fun show overall. So I'd recommend that. And that's so Shawn's recommendation, Hunter x Hunter. Go check it out. My recommendation would be Yozakura Quartet, Hana no Uta. And I think it might be on Crunchyroll. Hunter x Hunter definitely is. Next is Romance. What do you think, Shawn, for Romance?
Unfortunately, I haven't. Most of the romance that I've seen has always been mixed in with other things. It hasn't been strictly romance. I didn't start giving actual romance a chance until before I started subscribing to multiple anime services. I was just watching Netflix, and I watched Your Lie in April, which is my only... And that's not even purely a romance. Like, that's an intense drama, and it tackles a ton of different things very well. Romance just happens to be one of them. I'm not going to include that because Your Lie in April will leave you a sobbing wreck of a human being.
Yeah, we're not trying to destroy anyone's sanity here or mental well-being.
I don't think I'll ever stop grieving over the end of that show. Like, that show just fucking hurt me.
Yeah, it's
and I really love it. It's an incredible story. But when I think of just a plain, like a straight up love story, I know that I've watched some, but none of them are in my memory right now because I wish I had prepared for this a little bit.
We're not allowed to.
Didn't we watch one not too long ago, man?
Romance? Yeah.
Thought we set out to try and change up the rotation a little bit. I thought we put one in that was one. Didn't we? Did we watch one?
Kaguya-sama was technically that.
Oh, there we go. Kaguya-sama. So if I was to go like the kind of romance that hurts you, I would probably say Your Lie in April. And if I would go the kind of romance that is surprisingly rooted in real life, even though it is a setting and characters that are very much outside of reality, I would probably say Kaguya-sama, Love is War. Kaguya-sama really, I did a write-up on it on the Streaming Geek, which captures it perfectly because that show takes the experience of being in high school and falling in love and how real that is for you and how confusing it is, and all the conflicting physical, like you have these physical, like the ideas that pop into your head, all of that, and then just adds this incredible layer of comedy around it. And so they start with a core of reality, like their feelings for one another, the way they behave around those feelings, the thoughts that pop into their head about those feelings, all of that is real. And then they add in this social order, in a world where everyone in this, like, this is a school. It's not the kind of school that really exists, but it's a school where only the elite go. There are some of those like that, where everyone is the child of a senator or a judge or a celebrity or whatever. They're all super rich kids, with the exception of a tiny handful of people that get in on scholarship. And there's a social strata and all the expectations of behavior and so on that are very much exaggerated and beyond believability, but they're in there for fun. And then there's a lot of tropes that are intentionally inserted that poke fun at other anime. It's a little bit like Myriad Colors and Phantom World, where it is an anime made for people who love anime. So it lampoons itself. It lampoons typical anime tropes and manga tropes. And all of the characters are just very, even though they really wouldn't exist in real life, they're believable, because the emotional core of each character comes from a real place that we've all experienced, and their emotional behavior is realistic. It's just the rest of the stuff is all completely invented, and it just kind of puts a gear in the works, like a wrench in the works, and kind of makes things wonky and fun. But it is very romantic, and it is the kind of romance that you can easily see growing into something long term after the show were to end. You could see these two together with kids and a family and so on. Like it feels real to me. So I really enjoy that show. I'm really looking forward to the movie and to the next season and to seeing where it goes. And eventually, when I've got more money and time, I will read the manga, because from what I understand, it's really, really nice. I also loved the romance that was in Beyond the Boundary, but that show, the movie that ends the series,
That's a good action show too, Beyond the Boundary.
It is, yeah. There's a really sweet romance in it that it actually does take center stage, and it is the crux of the finale in the TV show. And then, but when the show ends, it's kind of bittersweet. And then they made 2 movies that summed up the series. That basically just condensed the episodes. You can skip those. Just watch the TV series and then watch the 3rd film. But I will warn you, the 3rd film makes no sense at all. Like it really doesn't make any sense. Like, the great thing about Beyond the Boundary is it builds these relationships between these kids that feel believable, and you really care about each of them and the adventures they go on, and it's really charming. And the fucking film, the 3rd movie that ends the TV series, just doesn't make sense, and they don't explain anything, and all the plot threads that you thought were going to be resolved from the TV show, because there's a bunch just left dangling, that are supposed to be resolved in the movie, do not get resolved. Instead, they ask a whole bunch of other questions, and they sort of think they're resolving a few of the plot threads, but they don't do it in a way that makes any fucking sense at all. Like, it's so weird. So I definitely go with Kaguya-sama or Your Lie in April, but if you value your tears, watch Kaguya-sama instead.
You'll have tears of laughter then. But
yeah, it's so good. Kyle and I were laughing till we cried. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really
Plus
good,
Chaika.
Really good fucking show. Actually
Dance.
won quite a few awards in the last anime awards thing, which we talked about last week, which is...
And Chaika Dance.
Again, if you don't trust us, there's something else there. Community voted it.
Chaika Dance.
Okay, chill out. I know, it was an exciting time for all of us. We got to see Chaika Dance, good music, rotoscoped. Everything was excellent.
Yes.
It's okay.
What about you?
We're going to move on. Jesus Christ. Oh, romance. I love me some romance. And some big anime titties, of course. But when they both exist, it's quite good. Now, what I'm going to be talking about is the complete opposite. No big anime titties here. But Toradora. You're looking for a good high school romance with drama, Just straight romance is the main theme, and some drama peppered in. Actually, well, some heavy fucking pepper. This boy broke the lid and peppered in drama that way, kind of thing. But excellent fucking show. Really good characters. The main couple is super endearing. And seeing them get closer to one another, become friends first, and then fall in love with each other. It's just excellent. A lot of really heartwarming moments as they learn more about each other, familial issues that they have. It's just a really good fucking show. Only thing is, like, some people aren't too heavily a fan of is the main female lead. She's a tsundere. And if you don't know what that is, it means that they're very cold towards the person. But the good thing is, she's not a tsundere forever, obviously, because it's a romance show. And something's got to go somewhere. So she's a tsundere off the bat. Some people don't like that because, I don't know, it's something that's overdone quite a bit. So that's understandable. But she does turn around eventually. Again, it's a romance, but the main couple's really good. The friend group that builds around them is very good. It leads to a lot of very good drama, some really impactful moments, some really heartfelt moments. Just very well written, very good characters, and the animation is quite good as well. Especially since it's an older show, it holds up very well. Not super old. It's like mid to late 2000s, I think. I don't know when it came out, mid to late 2000s. I think it's
the tsundere thing was had run its course by then, though. And I think a lot of people are rough on tsundere just because a lot of it was ecchi.
Yeah. Oh, well.
There was just like so many ecchis with tsunderes, and so anytime you started to see a character like that, you were immediately like, oh shit, where are the titties?
Nah, none of that. Actually, the main character girl, she flat as a board, so don't even worry about it. No bouncing titties here. But excellently written, really good show, and it's super, super heartfelt, fun to watch, and that's for romance. Next, we have horror. I don't know much in regards to horror. I haven't watched a lot of horror shows, but Shawn's, I think, I pretty much know what Shawn's answer is going to be, I think.
I've watched so many. Like, oh man. Action horror, I'd go with Vampire Hunter D. Both films, they're excellent. If I were to go with dramatic horror, I would go with 3 by 3 Eyes. Unfortunately, that one is patchy. The first one follows 2 arcs and then stops right in just a strange place. I think there's 2 series they made, and they're at 2 different times in the manga, and there's a huge gap of time between the first series and the second series, and you can find them together in a boxed set, and it's an older anime. It's from 90s. It's extremely good. Do not watch the dub. Jesus Christ. That's how I watched it originally, and then I finally got to watch the Japanese instead of the English, and I was like, oh my god, thank god Yakumo is not a twit in this one, because the main character's voice, he's just always like, hi, like, it's so bad. But in her voice, it was just, there's like 8 voice actors for every fucking anime thing that was made in the 90s, and they were just in every show, and they were horrible. So the Japanese for sure. But that one's really good. The horror in it's really good, and it's like a secret world. This guy's a normal dude, and then like something happens, and he dies, and he gets resurrected, but without his soul. So
Bleach.
Yeah, there's a species of people. I can't remember what they're called right now. They have 3 eyes. They're like these enlightened beings, and when they have 2 personalities. The personality when when their third eye is asleep, and then I think they're a triclops, but there's a specific Asian name for them, and I think they're Chinese if I'm not mistaken. But there's this girl named Pi, and she's a triclops. When her third eye opens, the other personality is there, and that personality owns his soul. And as long as it has ownership of his soul, he can't die.
That reminds me of holy shit. That reminds me of a show that I watched a long ass time ago called Shakugan no Shana. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It kind of, I mean, it wasn't horror, but it was an action show. But it was like this girl that she had like a fire sword, and when she activated it, her hair would turn red as well. and this dude, he was killed, but there's like this, it was like killed during like a certain time of day or something. And it was while this battle was going on. I don't remember entirely. It was while this battle was going on. And the way he died, it caused it where it made him immortal. And he can only die a certain amount of times a day. And then at the end of the day, it would reset. And then he'd be given those lives back.
It sounds familiar. I think you've talked to me about it before.
And the girl, she really liked melon bread or whatever the fuck for some reason, but it was like a really old.
Why is that a recurring thing? I've seen like 4 shows where there's a girl who loves melon bread.
Melon bread's apparently excellent, and I remember watching that when I was really young. Like I watched it on like Cracked.
It sounds familiar.
A really old video app called Cracked. Also, where I unfortunately stumbled across Kiss X Sis, and we won't talk about that.
I still can't believe that was on there. Crackle is owned by Sony.
No, is it Crackle or Cracked?
Yeah, it's Crackle.
Okay.
Crackle is owned by Sony. It's their streaming service.
I watched anime on my PSP boys. That's how I saw World God Only Knows for the first time. That was before I found Crunchyroll.
It's pretty good.
That's also decent. No, it's not a romance, is it?
3 by 3 Eyes. The guy basically ends up as her bodyguard to keep her alive, and over time he falls in love with her. And her human side is very innocent and naive. And the supernatural side, when her eye is open, is very manipulative. And then there's this sinister force because she's one of the last of her kind. And there's another one who also has a guardian. He also killed someone and took their soul. She killed a Yakumo on accident. The other guy was on purpose. But he is looking to mate with her. And he's also like just this demonically evil being. Like he may be a Triclops, but he's horrible. And so like while they never actually see him, they see his minion, and his minion is so much stronger than Yakumo. It's ridiculous. So Yakumo starts practicing with his powers to become stronger. They make friends along the way. And that first arc ends in just a rough place. And then like fucking 8 or 10 years later, in like the early 2000s, they made a new series with him on another adventure. He actually finds I'm not going to go into it because that'll be spoiling too much about the first season, but there's a big gap in the middle of just him training and looking for someone where you see his character develop. And then after that gap, that's when the next series picks up. And I really liked it. I thought it was excellent. If you want to go traditional Japanese horror, I would say Erased was fucking just skull-jarringly, horribly, like just creepy as fuck.
Erased.
And it's not Erased, yeah.
Or the dude goes back in time? Is that a horror?
No. Well, that is kind of a horror. No, not, maybe not Erased then. Was that Erased?
Oh yeah, Erased was the dude going back in time and inhibiting.
Oh no, I'm thinking the one with the curse.
Curse.
Yeah.
Oh, another?
Another, that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Another was jarring, like in exactly how just.
That's what I thought your recommendation would be.
Yeah,
Another.
that's the one I'm probably going to settle on is Another, because Another goes out of its way. The key thing in horror is you have to care about the characters. Either you got to have just a really fun movie, which doesn't necessarily involve you caring about the characters, but a really fun story, or it's got to be something that's truly terrifying. And you have to care about the characters, because you're not going to be scared of what's happening in a film if you don't care about who it's happening to. And Another goes out of its way to make all of its characters real, empathetic, compassionate, like normal kids. And one of the things that makes horror, Dean Koontz said once, and he's not like by far the greatest horror writer, but he's fairly prolific. He's up there with like Clive Barker and Stephen King and shit. But Dean Koontz once said that the best horror stories take people who cannot truly impact what is happening to them. They don't have control over what is happening to them. And they put them in a situation that all they can do is try and escape. Because and he said that's why it's so common in horror for victims in horror to be children, teenagers, because they don't have control over their lives yet. They don't have control over their world. They don't realize how much control they do have. You know, a lot of times they don't take their studies seriously because they don't realize the impact things are going to have. You know, they're not mature enough to see far into the future. There's just so many things that make them ideal victims for horror. And that's why he likes to take his characters and stick them up against an enemy that it's difficult to comprehend. Because what can you do against an unstoppable force, you know? And so that's what you're looking at in this show, is something is happening that they can't stop, you know, and you really care about these kids, and they're dying horribly, painfully. It's not quick for some of these kids. Like, it's bad. And you can't help but go through these emotions and feel, you know what I'm saying? It was very emotional to watch that, because you're just like, you want to stop what is happening. You want to protect these pretend cartoon children. Like, I'm not kidding. And it's just like, it's gut wrenching, and the ending is even emotional. And I just thought it was and I also pick it because it's not a typical horror. Like, it is, in terms of, like, it's a very Japanese story, is how the curse works and so on. They even have a prequel story that they did. I don't know if they animated it or if they just wrote it about the last time the curse struck, because it's cyclical. And the main character comes into town because I think his mother just died, if I remember correctly. Or something like that. And he comes to this small town, and then he becomes embroiled in the same conflict that his mother survived like 40 years ago or 20 years ago. So, and they don't just give you clues. Like, they give you clues, but like, it's just paced very well. It's very well done. And when you find out who the villain is, or more accurately, what the villain is, and it's so interesting. I just can't say anything more than that. I really don't want to blow it. I suggest you watch the anime before you watch like the movie or something like that, or you read it. But it's really charming. The characters are wonderful. It's tragic. It's horrifying. And for once, it's not an easy solution. It's not just a monster or, a ghost or something that you're dealing with. It's something much bigger and much more difficult to quantify. So I really did enjoy that a lot. I have nothing but praise to say for another, and I definitely suggest that for horror.
Nice. I haven't watched a lot of anime horror, but one that does come to mind when it's like, i.e., natural response kind of shit, is Higurashi, which is the only thing I can really think of.
Jesus,
when
yes,
cicadas cry.
I actually watched all of that except for the side story content that came afterward. That one's right up there with another, except that Hiroshi's a lot harder to wrap your head around. They don't really explain it properly.
Oh yeah, it's like a mix of like, there's like some Final Destination elements, there's time hopping going around. It's very
parallel realities is more accurate.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, like parallel, like reality hopping. It's very interesting. You feel for the characters again, and it's very hard to watch. There's a lot of elements in it, or a lot of acts in it that are very hard to watch.
It will not make sense for like the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, but it's good. Very, very creepy. Some of the situations that go down, and very in your face. Don't give a fuck how you feel. Brutal kind of thing with a lot of the stuff. If you're looking for like straight up, I can't promise it. Higurashi definitely for horror, like straight horror. I recommend it. It's good. If you're looking for like something more along the lines of like a slasher. That's just like blood, guts all over the place, like the Blood series, maybe like Blood Sea.
Blood. Which one was the? No. Blood Sea was awful. Blood Plus.
There was one where they were going around taking people, and there's just people being ripped in half. Aliens throwing people into bags and just mushing them up into juice. All this other shit. What was that? Was that Blood Plus or Blood Sea?
It weren't aliens, they were vampires.
Whatever. They look like giant alien monsters. I didn't see all of it. I just remember seeing a lot of the clips, and it was like straight up slasher. Let's just kill as much people as we can on camera and throw blood all over the place kind of thing.
One of them was extremely good. The other one was eh. And I believe Blood Plus was
Blood Sea was the crappy one, and Blood Plus was the good one.
Because there's 3 Bloods. There's a movie pilot. It was like one of the first completely digital films digital
Wasn't the
film
first
cartoons.
one like revolving around a dude, and then they introduced a girl in Blood Plus, and it was like a girl you followed around?
No, it was the whole thing was about Saya. Blood Plus was excellent. It was inspired by the 2000 anime film Blood the Last Vampire, which actually felt more like a short because it didn't really give you a lot of
I don't remember
story.
that shit. So
But I think Blood Plus was the good one.
I know Blood C was the bad
It
one.
was excellent. I loved Blood Plus. It was really, really good. The drama was really good. It's propulsive, you know. It doesn't stay too long in one place. It constantly moves forward, but you never feel like it moves through any arc too quickly. I thought it was excellent. That Blood, I didn't even think about that one. That was really, really good.
Okay.
Blood Plus was really good.
So yeah, I stick with Higurashi though still, but that's a third in case you're looking for horror because there's not a lot of anime horror around.
Yeah.
So
And if anybody ever tries to tell you to watch the Blood live action movie, whatever you do, whatever costs it takes, do not do that.
Kill them if you have to.
Do not do that. Don't do it. It's so bad.
There you go. Heard it first. If someone approaches you, holds you down, you murder that person to get away from them. Said it here first. Just keep that in mind. Do what you have to do. Break legs, threaten family members, kill children. Do not watch the live action Blood film.
Yeah, it's so bad.
That's the motto. If you take nothing else from this episode today, take that with you. Make that something you live by. Let you know.
It would be better to play Beethoven on Super NES than fucking watch that movie. And that's like the worst torture I can think of. So yeah, but so we got horror. And comedy was an excellent suggestion. Comedy. Well, I already burned my Konosuba. Yeah, Konosuba.
That was gonna be mine, you fucking cunt.
All right. Well, then if you're taking Konosuba, then I will take oh god, what was that other one that I said gave it a run for its money? God, there's been so many good comedies recently.
The one that was poking fun at anime, I remember us enjoying a lot.
Myriad Colors in Phantom World.
Yeah.
That one is so short. They really needed to do more and they didn't. But that did make me laugh out loud. Konosuba's funnier than that though.
Oh, 100%.
But I already. So yeah, I guess I'll do that one. Myriad Colors in Phantom World is charming to the maximum. It's got a ton of inside jokes, a lot like my romance pick has a ton of like stuff that pokes at anime and manga. This does too. The characters are great, the world's great. There's some downsides because they really don't get enough time to expand and grow, and it's very much an episode of the week kind of thing. You don't have any overarching plot, any long-term plot. I don't really think it had a chance to do that. By the time it had established the characters over 12 episodes and really got the world solidified, it just stops, which sucks. But for what it is, Myriad Colors is super charming. It's wonderful. The characters are great. The stories are great. The ideas it presents are great. And it is consistently funny while still providing like some fairly compelling action and little mini mysteries and things like that. And it's another one of those like high school students are charged with a job that nobody would ever give a kid to do. Like, hey, there's ghost things that are hurting people and going crazy. So you're in a club that goes and stops that instead of like adults with the very same abilities. It's kids for some reason. I think it was because kids were the ones that manifested the abilities, if I remember correctly. Because they were born after the world changed.
No, after a certain age, I think the power went away. They only existed in kids. Then they would lose access to it or something.
Was it? I thought it was for people born after the event.
Oh, that might be right. What am I thinking about? There was something where people lost their powers after a certain age. I don't know.
Anyway, it's a good show, and I love it. My vote's still with Kyle's pick, but Myriad Colors is extremely good.
I'm really fucking trying hard here,
and I'm super fond of
it. Think of other like solely comedy shows.
We've watched a lot, but it's for some odd reason they just vanish. I think when you watch thousands of anime, all of a sudden like good ones just kind of disappear. Yeah. Like I'd have to scroll through my Mal list to see.
We can't do that. It's cheating, Shawn.
Yeah. So off
Fuck.
the top of my head, I'm gonna go
Oh,
Myriad Colors
what was that one where it was like
and Phantom World.
it was like fucking Satan working at McDonald's?
Oh God, that was
That
excellent.
that
The
one was
Devil is
pretty
a
fucking good.
part-timer.
Yeah, the
That's another
Devil's a
one
part
that
timer.
didn't continue and it needed to.
Yeah, that one was pretty fucking good.
That
As
was
a
really
comedy.
charming too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was some like subtle, mature ideas behind it. But overall, yeah, that was excellent. I really enjoyed that one. But that's another one that you only get 12 episodes with it and they never continued it.
Yeah, Devil's a part timer. That's a good one. All right. Yeah,
Um,
but my pick's Konosuba. Excellent, funny as fuck, good writing, characters. Another thing is like something that's different from a lot of the other comedy anime that we've presented is a lot of this feels, it may not be, but a lot of the acting and character communication feels very heavily what's the word when it's like on the spot? Oh my god.
what do you mean on the spot?
When comedy's on the spot, you come up with it on the fly. Improv.
Oh, improv.
A lot of it feels like it's improv, the way they talk to each other. Like there's a lot of little lines in that it almost feels like the voice actors are sliding in there that may not have been part of it originally, the way that it's presented. I'm not entirely sure how true that is, but when you sit down and just see these characters interact, a lot of it is you just want to see the next crazy as fuck adventure that these people go on. And it also, if you hate isekai, this is a deconstruction of isekai. So it pokes fun at isekai to death, which is another just really funny thing after seeing it came at a good time.
Say it lampoons it. I don't know if it deconstructs it. When you're talking deconstruction, that'd be more like ReZero.
Okay. Whatever. It makes fun of isekai. Like that's the whole purpose of it, is making fun of isekai.
Oh yeah, it's so hard. So hard.
It's funny, the characters,
and all the characters
are good.
are great. Because, like you gotta think, like in so many shows, like the design is so very male centric or so very female centric. They're like they've got this one audience in mind and everything is geared around it, like character design, behavior. Women are framed a certain way, men are framed a certain way, situations are framed a certain way. And in Konosuba, they're all assholes.
Yeah.
Like every member of the party is a selfish asshole.
But you love them to death because the way they are.
They're good assholes. They're not bad people, but they are bad people. Like, you just can't help but love them anyway. You've got friends that are just pieces of shit, but you love them to death anyway. These are that person. Like they're not the people you want to rely on ever.
Yeah, it's really good. And I like that a lot of it is like, again, poking fun at shit. You have this typical, something that should be like a male fantasy, another world surrounded by girls, but this dude is just, the people he's surrounded with, he's surrounded by girls, but they just repulse him. He fucking, like, he doesn't hate them, and you'll see there's growth. Like, he grows to be more attached to them, and he enjoys their presence, but he'd never... he probably thinks about it, but he never like engage in a serious relationship with any of these women because they're all fucking so heavily flawed. They're insane, and it's just so interesting.
He's not like he's just as much of an asshole, but they're all different kinds of assholes, and they're all self-absorbed.
Yeah, it's just a good show. A lot of crazy adventures, lots of subversion of expectations of what you'd come to expect from a story to turn out. And then all of a sudden we've made friends with the villain and everyone's on buddy good two shoes. And you're like, what the fuck just happened kind of thing. And it's just, you go from adventure to adventure looking forward to what other kind of insanity that they come across this small group as they're trying to defeat the Demon Lord. Again, isekai ideals kind of thing. It's fucking really good. The performances are all what make it. I'd say is the best element of it is the performances of all the characters and just how much fun they have with it. You're just laughing with them the entire time, having fun with them the entire time, and just ready to see them on their next adventure. And it's just awesome. It's super fucking fun to watch and really a good time. And also, from what I've heard, the English version, they have just as much fun as they do with the Japanese version. Although, again, we prefer the Japanese version here usually. I've heard a lot of the dub, and a lot of people really enjoy the dub as well. And they do try and come close to what the level of playfulness that they have with in the Japanese version as well. So, really good fucking comedy show. Excellent. Shonen.
Fairy Tale.
You go through it. I'm
Fairy
gonna try
Tale-
my ass off to think of something because I'm fucking
Yeah.
lost.
Fairy Tale. It does not. Rarely does it ever go dark. It has some real gut-wrenching emotional moments, like universal ones, like the death of a parent or something like that. Fairy Tale embraces the tropes that you're used to in shonen, and then tweaks them just a little bit to make them warm. You know, the Fairy Tale is all about family and friendship in a way that isn't corny. You know, in a way that feels very familiar to me. Like when you watch Naruto, it feels like it's very ham-fisted because it's always the power of friendship and fucking that kind of thing. And I'm doing this for my friends. But when you watch Fairy Tale, when one member of this guild gets fucked with, the other ones don't show up and go, hey, how dare you fuck with my friend? You can't do that. We're going to team up and take, no, it's like, oh, motherfucker. Oh, you mess with the fucking, no, that's not how this is going to go down. You mess with one of us, now we all get to kick your ass. And we love kicking ass. So we're going to do that now. Like it's very warm, the relationships they have. It's always a big adventure. And you feel this sense of family. And I've talked about this before.
I figured it out.
You feel the sense of family in Fairy Tale in and out. It's stories without being corny. You know, it never feels to me like it's being preachy. It's just the guy who wrote Fairy Tale views friendship the way that I do, because I'm much closer with my friends than I am with my family in many regards. And my friends comprise a sort of family for me in a way that I don't think necessarily is true for everybody. A lot of people are like just super close to their family, and that's not something I understand. And in Fairy Tale, you have a bunch of people who are all outsiders who banded together and formed a guild. And they're in this mages guild, and they're all, it's a world where mages are all just kind of rejects anyway. They're all crazy eccentrics. And these are the craziest eccentrics of eccentrics. And they all band together, and they're just a bunch of rowdy people who love each other, and they go off and run missions and do stuff. And it's awesome. It's a great watch. It's super fun. It doesn't have a ton of death. It doesn't have, it's almost always a feel good. The fights are great. Some seasons aren't animated so hot. There are some that are animated really, really well, and other ones where they're not. The last season was kind of a disappointment in terms of the animation because they just cut a bunch of corners. But the story is always fun, and even though it's formulaic at times, like I never felt bored. I never felt like we were doing the same thing over and over again. Even the 2 filler seasons, or filler arcs, I should say, I think there's 2 filler arcs, are decent. So I have a lot of love for Fairy Tale. It holds a special place in my heart. It is possibly my most favorite shonen in terms of just love. That doesn't mean that I think it's better than Boku no Hero or Fire Force or some of the other great shows we watch, Dr. Stone, Demon Slayer. Those are all much better shows in terms of depth, but there's something special about Fairy Tale that nothing else has come close to. Now, I know a lot of people that have watched One Piece who say that One Piece does the same exact thing, and there are some similarities between the shows, even though they've gone in different directions. But if I was to tell somebody, if you want something that's a great palate cleanser that just makes you smile and makes you feel good and gives you that sense of happiness and doesn't weigh you down, Fairy Tale is definitely the way to go. Like, it's a great show. It grows on you. All of the characters are interesting. All of the characters get at least a little bit of screen time, and there's a lot of them.
The main
and
theme
it just
bopping too, bro.
Anytime that theme starts, you know, like the fight will get dark, and they're at their wits'
Typical
edge,
shonen
and then
bullshit,
that fucking
the theme
song
starts.
kicks in, and you're on the edge of your fucking couch, bouncing up and down because you know
It's about to go down.
know. Yeah, it's just
You know what it's time
really
for?
Good show.
Time for me to pull something out of my ass. Typical shonen bullshit, bro. But
Yeah, but they
we
just
love it
make
anyway.
it. They make it special. It's just not the typical bullshit that you normally see in shonen. That is so annoying. The tropes that they ran into the ground in Dragon Ball that the tropes that killed Bleach, the tropes that fucking were present in Naruto, that if they hadn't had the drama in Naruto would have killed that too. In Fairy Tail, it just doesn't hurt. It doesn't sink it down. And again, I think it's the dichotomy and the writing with the characters. The characters are so lovable that you're okay. It just doesn't affect it the same way. I can't explain to you other than it's a wonderful show. And anytime, I would always pepper in a few episodes when I was watching anything else, because it was just it was like coming home.
Oh, got a notification from my computer. Sorry for that. This is a really hard category for me because there's a lot of excellent recommendations. Like Shawn had said, Demon Slayer, Doctor Stone, Fire Force, all fantastic shows in their own regard for all different reasons, and shown in such a huge genre that it makes it difficult to just sit there and single out one. But I think of like recent ones that I implore you to watch that I think you'll genuinely enjoy, that a lot of people just enjoy in general. I think I got to go with Haikyuu. I think I'm going to go with Haikyuu.
Oh God, Haikyuu's so good, but Haikyuu's Fairy Tail with volleyball.
Yeah, I think that for just a good shonen, excellent characters, excellent writing, really good music. You're a Boku no Hero fan. It's the same composer. So that's one good thing. Music is just as excellent as in My Hero. Now, not as impactful, obviously, because we're playing volleyball, not saving the world, but still very good and well composed and perfect for the moments that they display. The animation is excellent when they get into the heavier matches. The tension, the writing is there. They do a good job. They do a very good job of giving all the characters time. There's no good or bad dude that you're supposed to root for. They give you, it's like they're handing everyone to you, and you get to pick and choose who you want to root for, because all the characters are good in their own sense. The main team, obviously, you see a lot more of because that's the story we're following. But I've seen a lot of people that will end up rooting or wanting the other team to have more time because they like the characters on the other team. The designs are all very unique and varied. And it's that typical, like, you're a fly on the wall in like a typical sports team day-to-day scenario. Everyone trying to become better at what they're doing, learning how to be closer with each other in the end, and be better friends and be more responsive to one another and the issues that everyone's going through and stuff like that. Top of that, you have excellent moments in fights, really like tension-filled matches. Like, asshole can turn like coal into diamond level stress from some of these matches, and just absolutely some jaw-dropping moments of people stepping up to the plate, and almost every character gets like their arc. Like they'll have, and some of them,
they're all good too. They're all just wonderful characters.
Some of them sometimes they'll start an arc and show that this character's working on something, and they'll have their redemption later on, and you're like, oh shit, that dude's been doing, what the fuck, they're gonna pull it out now, oh my god, this is gonna be game changing. And then they drop their what they've been working on, and then it's just boom, game changing and all this. It's just so much attention to how these characters interact with each other, how they're all struggling to be better, to master the art that they're practicing, and it's just all wrapped around the skin of volleyball. And in every sense, it is a shonen. It's the same stuff: working better, struggling, or striving to be the best, striving to.
They're on a journey, and you get to go on that journey with them. You feel like you're on this emotional journey.
Hell
with
yeah!
them.
You're like
good.
You're like that one kid that never gets put in. You just sit on the bench the whole time. That's the role that you take, and you're just watching this team go to greatness. And it's just so heartwarming and well done, and it's really like I find it hard to like put words to like how good writing is in a lot of shows, but it has that attention to detail. They'll introduce things for characters that will become important, and it will become important later, and you'll learn as these characters progress, and they're all individual arcs. They'll have sometimes where multiple arcs for characters will be going on at the same time, and you'll be catching up with each of these people as they're on their own little journey in the grander scheme of this larger journey, as they all strive to become better people and players at the sport. And then it all kind of manifests when it comes to the match, and you have everyone kind of working together as a single well-oiled machine, working to win. And it's just Fucking excellent. Best sports show I've ever fucking watched, and it's up there with some of the best shonen that I've ever watched.
It never feels like a sports show. Like I said it so many times. It has a lot of the same things that I love about Fairy Tail present in it. But that sense of community, that bond that they have, and this going on along that journey for them, it's unforgettable. Like Haikyuu is universal in its appeal.
Yeah, it's fucking dope. That's the synopsis. It's fucking dope. If you're looking for a good shonen, please watch some Haikyuu. I mean, depending on who you are, you may regret it, but if you like good shows, it's one of the better when it comes to shonen. When it comes to sports shows, it's excellent. A lot of people that have watched it will tell you the same.
What other categories do we have?
We have one more. It's feel good, and I have my answer already.
Man.
So
I got two honorable mentions I want to make that just don't fall into any of these categories, but I think they're must watches. Devil Survivor 2, the animation, is fucking amazing. It's a step into the Shin Megami Tensei world. I don't know what you would call that. Like, it's a little bit. It's a post-apocalyptic. There's horror. There's tragedy. There's action. There's drama. I don't know where you would deposit that. I'd say it leans dark fantasy. Probably be the best thing. I would definitely say Devil Survivor, the animation. It's not terribly long. I remembered it being longer, but it's 13 episodes. And they did this really fucking cool thing with the opening, or was it the closing? I think it's the opening that I didn't notice immediately, where there's spaces, like as they introduce characters, those characters get added into the opening. The opening is the same. It's the same scenes, but you'll see more and more people appear in scenes. And then as characters exit the plot, they're removed. And they don't necessarily enter as they in the same order they exit. So you'll know it's like this callback, because anytime somebody dies in this show, it's impactful. Like, it's very impactful. Like, you feel that, you grieve that. And it's powerful. So when you see these reminders in the opening, when you watch the next episode, and all of a sudden that guy or that girl isn't there, like, it's just this, it brings it all back. And I thought that was really, really interesting when they do little touches like that with the opening and closing scenes where those guys are just gone, they're erased. I thought that was really cool. And the other one that I wanted to mention was, I just fucking lost it. I had it in my head. It was Devil Survivor 2, the animation, and damn it, I don't know. It'll come back to me later. But
all right, do you have your feel good?
Was feel good?
Yeah, it's a heartwarming ass show. Huh?
Well, it was.
I have mine. You want me to go first? What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, mine's gonna be. Well, I have two, but one is heavily feel good. The other is a mix of stuff. The one that's a mix, that's like drama, feel good, and all this other stuff is Violet Evergarden. On top of that, it's absolutely gorgeous. But there's a lot of feel good, heartwarming, and it's like a collection of different stories as this one person who's lost who doesn't understand what it means to love. And she's trying to figure that out, and she's doing that by hanging out with all these people. She's kind of like a robot. She's not a robot.
She's a child of war.
She was
raised
state.
As a weapon.
Yes, raised as a weapon. So she hasn't interacted with a lot of people in that sense to understand what love is as an emotion. Just trying to figure that out. So she goes through all these different little vignettes of different interactions with people, and all those individual stories can go from anywhere to very heartwarming, to crying your eyes out onions, to a lot. It encapsulates all of it. But when it comes down to the end of it, when I look back on it as a whole, I would consider it more heartwarming than anything else. Did you figure it out, what you were thinking of?
Yeah, Blast of Tempest was the other one.
Okay.
And that is an anime that was based off of Shakespeare's play The Tempest.
Okay.
And that was really fucking good too. Ending was a little bit weak compared to the overall series, but it's an amazing, it's a mystery, it's an action, it's drama, it's just really, really good. Blast of Tempest and Devil Survivor 2, the animation, are both fucking amazing.
Nice. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. And the animation is fucking phenomenal in Violet Evergarden. Like, holy shit, what a gorgeous anime. And it's done by Kyoto. I'm pretty sure it's Kyoto, right? Kyoto did Violet Evergarden? Yeah, I think it was Kyoto.
KyoAni?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So amazing, talented group of people. Rest in peace for the ones that they had lost. But excellent show you can watch on Netflix. Really good, and also has a lot of feel good moments. But my personal, like, when I think feel good, this is the first thing that comes to mind is Sweetness and Lightning, or Sweetness and Lighting. One of those. It's on
The one
Crunchyroll.
with the guy that makes the food.
Yeah, basically, super sweet. It's a single father living with his daughter, and them getting closer to each other because they've kind of grown distant in some other paths, but them getting closer to each other through cooking food and getting closer, learning recipes and working together to make meals. And not only is it food porn, but it's like super heartwarming. Just as this father gets closer to his daughter through this time that they spend together. And there's also another character they meet who doesn't have like a really heavy parental figure in her life either, because she's usually gone. Them getting closer in that way too, and just this wonderful budding friendship, and then the relationship between father and daughter, and just the daughter is so fucking sweet and endearing, and just such a lovable character. And seeing her get closer to her father and that love that they share, it's just so fucking feel good, bro. Like, I always finished those episodes with a smile, like the smile on my face. Like, that was like such.
It was really charming.
So fucking endearing and so worth the time. Just kind of sit down. It's like, oh, it's so good. It's so cute, and it's good. Another one, I don't know if you're looking for one on still, but one that I thought of was Senko-san. Was also really
that's exactly what I was kind of leaning toward.
If you want to talk about Senko-san, we could do.
That was like this great palate cleanser at the end of the night. I think at the time we were watching a bunch of shit that was going in some dark areas, and then we fucking put on, was it the Helpful Fox Senko-san?
Yeah, Helpful Fox Senko-san.
And it's not really, I mean, there's some light sexual elements in there. Not really. I mean, I
always felt they were maternal. I mean, there's one fox that's got big titties and stuff, and that I felt was
blatantly
sexual.
says a few things that they miss. Like, she was expecting, when she offered to grant his wish, she was expecting for him to have sex with her. And
yeah.
He ended up cuddling with her tail, like, which is not what she was expecting. So there's different perspectives that exist in that world. They're just not part of the storyline. But it's not just maternal. I think they have there's this fox spirit that's basically watching over this guy because his ancestor did something nice for her, and so she feels indebted to him, and she honors that ancestor even though she doesn't remember a lot because it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. She remembers enough to watch over this guy, and he's just having a real rough time of it in life, so she physically appears to him and takes care of him. Because she has the time, she's an immortal goddess, and she's Kitsune, she's a fox god. So she cooks and cleans and basically kind of takes this wifey role, and sometimes it's wifey and sometimes it's motherly. And I feel like I don't think that their relationship would ever go in any. I mean, and the story ends where it does intentionally, because it leaves it open for you to kind of interpret where things will go for them. Because it's just a snapshot of a time period, like when she meets him, and then to a year later, I believe,
yeah,
or something like that. And there's just it's very, very sweet. It's very cleansing. There's nothing naughty, and even the adult things that are between the line aren't terribly naughty. Like, it's kind of interesting because they both remark that she feels like kind of motherly to him, but at the same time she feels something else, and he kind of says the same thing a little bit here and there, but they never look at it too deeply. Like, both of them just accept things as is, and that's all the show does, is it stays in that kind of safe relationship where and she looks like she looks very, her appearance happens to be very small. Like, she looks like 16-year-old girl in like cosplay outfit. And then another one of them, I think, that shows up, that's one of her friends. It's another goddess. Looks different. Like she looks a little bit younger, and then another one looks much older. I guess their physicality age is different. It doesn't really matter. It's not a sexual show. There may be some undertones in there, but again, I think it's all handled very well. And it's just very sweet. It's about one person caring about somebody who's going through hard times and just trying to make sure that person makes it through okay. And then the other person, not, feeling awkward through all of it and trying to take part of it too, but then accepting. I don't know. It's a very charming cartoon, and it's a wonderful anime, and it's a very sweet story, and it doesn't really develop the world or go too far into it. It's like a little bit of Mr. Rogers, in episodic form. It just makes you feel good, and it's sweet, and they're nice to each other, and they don't ask anything of each other. I don't know. It was very charming, and it does make you feel good.
It fits that. And they also have this really interesting element after the credits every week where you go through these smaller stories, but it's done in like a first person perspective.
Yeah,
so
like
it's almost as if you are the main character. And we had a very little interesting discussion thinking about like there were probably people that got home or in this dude's situation because they have very rough work schedules. They just work a fuckload. There's a lot of like corporate Japanese males that just work a fuckload, and females too.
They don't really have much of a life.
So we could just imagine a dude coming home from a 10-hour day at work. At late at night, he eats and sits down. He watches the show, and that little element at the end is like the slight, quote unquote, human interaction that he gets. And it saddened the shit out of me. So don't do that. Don't think about that. It's just our minds running off.
Or salary women, for that matter. I mean,
anything. It's not gender specific. It's just someone looking.
No, because his next door neighbor was pretty. I mean, she was a work at home, but she was a mangaka, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And she worked on a manga from home, and she was stressed out and forgot to take care of herself and didn't eat right. And one of the fox gods just befriends her and starts kind of taking care of her. And not even because they felt obliged to, or because it was something that popped up. It's just like, hey, I can do this, since I'm here. And you see her benefit from the interaction with these gods. So it's a sweet story, and it's nice, and it's not in depth. It doesn't go too deep in any direction. It doesn't really do a lot of any one thing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely safe, so you don't have to, just because some of the characters have a childlike appearance, nothing ever gets naughty with them. I mean, just because there might be a chance of there being a romantic bond between them, that never goes anywhere. It's just like an unstated thing. But there's a lot in Japanese culture that is unstated or understated. It's things that aren't discussed but are implied. And I think it's implied that they have, in my opinion, I feel like they have a unique bond. It's a tiny bit romantic. It's a little bit romantic. It's a little bit familial. It's a little bit motherly with her to him. But regardless of what it is, it stays what it is through the entire show. Like, it never changes. So you just get these little vignettes of his life and their interactions, and these sweetly comical moments, and them learning to, them bonding and so on. It's nice, and it's a breath of fresh air, and it is absolutely a palate cleanser.
Yeah. Also, well, that was the last one, but also, because I know we've spoken, Lale, I know you haven't finished Attack on Titan, dude. Finish Attack on Titan, you fuck. If nothing else, finish Attack on Titan. It's
and then you've got to watch.
Excellent.
Once you finish that, then you have to watch Seraph of the End. You have to watch Zombie Train. Was that one?
That
was
Zombie Train was really good too. In the movie,
what the fuck was it called? Yeah, we still got to watch that. But what was that called? That was
I feel like Kaneki. No, let's start with a K, didn't it? Cuts. It's cheating.
fucking, I don't know. And then
zombie anime.
it's everybody calls it Attack on Titan.
Cabaneri, the Iron Fortress.
Yeah, that one's great. Ending
Bro,
sucks.
That first episode episode was so fucking good. Like everything
but it carries itself. It has the same kind of impact that Attack on Titan. It's like everything you love about Attack on Titan is going to be in Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress. It's not quite as good, but it's still right up there.
One issue he had with Attack on
Seraph
Titan
of the End
was that the Titans look goofy, which is definitely, in my opinion, not enough to stop watching a show.
I think they're horrifically goofy, but I mean they look.
Cabaneri doesn't have that.
Bad.
The story is not as good, in my opinion, in Cabaneri, but they don't have any of that goofy shit. Everything's like the exact same art style throughout. I'd say it's prettier than early Attack on Titan, but late Attack on Titan is prettier than Cabaneri. Obviously, because but you get it.
But the ride feels similar.
Oh,
and I would say Seraph of the End has a lot of the same intensity that those two shows do. So that's an excellent one to watch if you love Attack on Titan.
Is that the one with the vampires?
Yes.
Okay.
And my last suggestion, if you love Attack on Titan, is Attack on Titan in Space, which was completely CG animated, which didn't sit well with everybody. But that
I remember
one
being really good,
and
the second season had some really low points. It was like not.
Oh, that's because the second season had to spend a lot of time developing, building things up. But it was really good too.
Oh man,
and I can't remember.
Kill me. I know
it's on Netflix.
Isn't the name of the group that does it like Polygon or some shit?
Polygon. I just typed Attack on Titan in space and I got Godzilla.
Anime in space CG. Oh,
Netflix.
I found it. I found a picture of it. What is it? Oh, it is Polygon Pictures. Knights of Sidonia.
Knights of Sidonia, yeah. Knights of Sidonia was excellent. There's a little bit
beast.
of Robotech in there, a little bit of fucking Attack on Titan, ton of there, and there's it does what Knights of Sidonia. What I think is great about all of these shows is they put you in situations where black and white no longer apply. Like they challenge you to make a choice in a series of decisions where all choices are going to result with some sort of negative outcome. So there's no pure evil or pure good in Attack on Titan yet. I mean, there is a force that actually is evil, but they're not fighting that force. That force is behind them, not in front of them. And in the same thing exists in Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress. The same thing exists in Seraph of the End and in Knights of Sidonia. There's a lot of characters that are just it's just the drama is fantastic. The character development is fantastic. They're all really good shows. So if you dig the story in Attack on Titan and you love that intensity, that unique intensity, there's a handful of shows that once Attack on Titan is done, you can go and enjoy that will give you a similar viewing experience, but all tell their own unique stories.
Another really feel-good show, Little Witch Academy. Excellent animation.
I still gotta fucking watch that.
Oh, we should watch it. I would love to watch that again, bro.
I'm down with starting that. That's good. We can put that on the list.
Oh, dude, that show makes me calm. It feels so good.
Okay, that's really bad. Little Witch Academia is about a bunch of middle school girls. So.
No, not for that reason. I just feel so enlightened that I just happened to ejaculate.
Moving on.
Yo, dude, we should watch that tonight. That'd be good as fuck. Oh, I fucking love that show so much, bro. And the movies are good as fuck too. The movies are different stories altogether, so we can watch those after. The show.
Everyone's just basically described as having that same magic that the first few Harry Potter films did.
Exactly, it's Harry Potter.
And I am all about that.
It's so good.
Oh, you know what? Another great shonen is that we missed was Magi.
Oh yeah,
Magi's fucking fantastic.
Anime is just so good, bro. Like we're not gonna get everything. We're not gonna make everyone happy with these recommendations.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Magi is underrated though, man. People don't love that show enough, and that's why we didn't get more. We got the prequel spin-off where they showed Sinbad's early years, but Magi's fantastic, and that's a deep world, man. All these different cultures and stuff. Magi feels like if somebody took a fucking long gaming episode of fucking Dungeons and Dragons, but it's set in like an Arabian influence instead, and just put it on paper as a script. Like there's these different kingdoms, these different alliances, all these different characters with different motivations, and like, oh, it's just so good. I loved Magi. Magi was so much fun.
All right. Again, if you guys have recommendations we may have missed, feel free to let us know what you guys would recommend to Lala here, because we're probably going to make this the main topic because it's super fucking long. But definitely let us know shows that we might have missed that you think are worthy of being recommendations for each category. Hit us up.